What story are you going to tell me today?
I don't know. I haven't got any stories today. I'm fresh out of them.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Tell me about the twins you knew.
The what?
The twins you knew.
Twins.
When you were a kid, you knew some twins?
Oh, Lester and Lester Scott. That's been a long time ago. They, I guess they were really the only real close friends I had as a kid. And then when we moved out of the city, I went back and I rode the bicycle back in 2 or 3 times to visit them. But then when we went back east, we stopped. We stopped in St. Louis and got hold of the phone book, and we found I think we found, I'm not sure, I think we found Lester and in the phone book, and we called him up, and we did get together again, just for that evening. But Mama and the wife of Lester actually wrote letters to each other for a while. But they ended up, they must have been a year older than I was. We were in the same grade, but because they went into the Navy, but they were in the Navy a year before I went in. And when I heard they were in the Navy, I wrote them or something or other and told them to stop by, but they never did. It was a friendship for as a child, and then it just kind of disappeared.
What did you guys get into trouble together?
Well, only one time. I talked them into. For some reason, I decided that we should hop a freight and just go wherever that freight takes us, and just live there and go to work. And so I told the boys, Vester and Lester, I said, let's just do that. And so we planned on how to do it, where to do it, and everything. And they come by the afternoon, I guess. We were going to go, and I had second thoughts then. I said, well, wait a minute, this ain't going to work for us. Well, we got to do it. And I said, no, we just ain't going to work for us. And so I backed out, and they did too. But they had, somewhere or another, got hold of about $2 of their dad's money. And they got in trouble.
Uh-oh.
And that probably was the beginning of the end of our real close relationship. I don't know what we'd have done if we'd had it took off, but I was an avid reader from the time I went into the first grade. I actually could start reading in the first grade, and I read library books there all the time. Not Shakespeare or nothing like that, but just stories. And so I always had a very strong imagination, very vivid imagination.
Yeah.
And it got me into trouble a few times. It don't pay to have too strong an imagination. Have a good one, but just don't get carried away with it.
Live in the real world.
Yeah, you got to live in the real world.
But you still like reading books.
Huh?
You still like reading books. You listen to them on tape, right?
Oh, yeah. I read. I've never stopped reading.
What's your favorite type of book?
Huh?
What's your favorite types of books?
I guess westerns, because they come very close when they are. I mean, not the gun shooting and stuff, but the way these people live was very close to the way we lived, very close. And it just, I can actually feel or see how they're living when I read their books. And for some reason, that kind of makes me feel pretty good.
Was it just a much simpler time?
Well, no, it was just a different time. So it might have been simpler if you were up high in the government or something, but it just was. You had cars instead of the big thing was when I was born, the country was switching from horses, or they'd already did it, but there still was a lot of horses around, but they were switching from horses to cars, and but there were still a lot of horses around because a lot of you had people hauling ice and coal and with horses and selling them right on the street, and but the horses were going out of style as far as riding, and the cars took that over as far as riding them.
Yeah.
But they still were being used in different areas of the city. And so I was just about 20 years late for actually a horse, knowing about horses, you know, because the cars really, they were invented right at the beginning of the 1900s, of the 1900s, and actually airplanes were too. That was a very exciting century, the 1900s, because that was cars and airplanes and of course wars, two big wars, and so it was an exciting century.
So with all that creativity going on, did you have any aspirations of what you wanted to become when you were older?
No, I never had any idea. Like as I said, I read these books, and every once in a while we get a little. I guess I did in this situation, not of what I wanted to be, but what I wanted to do. I wanted to move, to go someplace. I don't know what I was going to do when I got there, but I just wanted to move, and so I actually moved my whole family. I mean, more than once.
So, did you want to just travel and experience the world, or?
I just wanted to be different living than we were living.
Yeah.
Is all. I didn't particularly care for the way we were living. It didn't bother me any, really. It may have bothered my mom and dad, I don't know. But they never complained about it. But I just, I wanted out of the city for one thing, and so we got out of the city, but then the war got over, and we really didn't want to go back. We just figured that things would go back to the way they were before the war in the city there, and we didn't really want that, and Dad didn't want that either, so we took off and went to Oregon then. But it was, I'll have to say, it was mainly me riding them to do it, and because Mom wasn't an adventurous person. She just did what was needed to be done and kept the house fairly clean, and the clothes clean, and so on and so forth. And but I kept moving them on. When we got to Oregon, Dad went to work for the longshoreman, and I got out here. Finally got out here about a month after he got here, and I said, "Oh no, we can't do that, Dad. We've got to go cut wood. We got to go to the woods." So we loaded up, and he quit work, and we loaded up, and we headed on the other side of Oregon City. Dad talked to somebody, and he said, "Yeah, I've got some big timber that the loggers don't want to cut down by a creek, and I'd like to have somebody go in there and cut that timber out and then cut it into cordwood, and so you can do that." And so Dad went. He bought a saw, from Montgomery Ward. I can't think what they call them anymore. It was, but anyway, but we didn't make any money, and we were going to starve to death. So we left that and we there for a couple months, and then we headed for. Dad got a job as a farmer, working for a farmer, and so we stayed there for a year and a half, and finally I talked him into. There used to be families would go follow the crops on the west coast here.
Yeah.
They'd go California and then up to Oregon and Washington, and we saw some of these families when working for the farmer there, and I told Dad, I said, I went to high school 1 year, and I never went back, but I told Dad that year I went to high school, I said, we got to just get in the car and take off and follow the crops, because we got a family here. Every one of us is able. I mean, even the youngest ones were 5 or 6 years old, and then on up to me, I was 14, and we can make a lot of money. You're making maybe $25 a week, $30 a week plus a house, but there's no reason we can't make $50 a week. The family picking strawberries and picking fruit and whatever, potatoes and everything. And so we quit. We got in the car, but my mom and I always kind of didn't get along too good. And she and I went to a neighborhood, and I said, "No, we want to store all our household stuff, because we'll be back this fall, but we're going to follow the crops. And could I rent a spot in your barn?" And he wasn't using it. He didn't have any animals or nothing. And yeah, that would be all right. And I forget, it was $10 or $15 or something. And but my mother, she wanted all her household furniture with her. And so here we going down the road with a trailer full of furniture to pick blackberries. I mean, well, we started with picking, it was on vines. Was it beans? Maybe it's pea. I don't know. Beans, or I guess it was beans. And we had to have a house. We had to go up to the farmer and say, "Have you got a house you can let us live in?" Because we had all this junk. we were losing. We lost right off the bat, because that didn't work. You had to live in that car more or less, just like camping.
So you would have had, okay, I was going to say, what would you have done without all that stuff?
You didn't need none of that stuff. You don't need none of it. When you're camping, you don't take that stuff with you when you're camping. And that's all this was. If you followed the crops, you camped. You just camped.
And great grandma did not like that.
No, she wanted her whole house. And we took her whole house, but it didn't work. So we went to this first farmer, and he had the house. And so we moved into the house, and but his crop wasn't much good. And they picked the crop in a day, and then you sit around till the crop come back. And then there were people coming around and asking for pickers for what the hops. I don't know if you ever heard of a hop or not.
Yeah.
But it's what they make
For
whiskey
beer,
and beer
yeah.
out of. And so I went with them one day, and if you pick hops, you got a sack that's 8 foot long and about that big around, and it weighs about 10, 15 pounds when it's full. And you get so much a pound when you pick them. And besides that, a lot of people are get sick if they get around hops.
Huh.
It's something that can, well, it more or less poisons you is what it does. But it doesn't poison you, but you're allergic to it and you get sick. And
Yeah.
I was one of that kind. So I got sick. And I said, that ain't working. We can't do it. Because it wasn't making any money even if we picked it all day long. And, but the thing is, I said, you know, these pastures are all full of blackberries. They're all full of blackberries. They had big groups of blackberries in these pastures, and nobody picked them. I said, well, let's see if we can pick these things, and if we can, maybe we can sell the blackberries. And for some reason, the canneries decided that year or a year before, but anyway, they decided to take blackberries. And so we started picking blackberries and then taking our crop, our pickings to the cannery every day. And we was making good money. And this lasted for about a month and a half. And then we run out of time. We had to get the kids had to go back to school. And but we run out of blackberries too. I mean,
yeah, the season was over.
The season was just about over, and so we saved. We had enough money from that that month and a half picking blackberries to rent. I don't know if you ever been out to where Uncle Edwin lives up there above Gresham.
No,
about
but
a mile farther than that, we rented a farm out there, and we lived there for a couple of years. Yeah, but that was from that blackberry. So we didn't waste that summer, but we didn't make any money until we got the blackberries. The rest of it was a waste of time.
So what I'm hearing is that you made all these decisions of what you should be doing.
Up to a point. No, Dad and Mom still run the thing and everything.
Yeah.
And then when this happened, when everything went sour on following the crops for us, Dad, he says, oh no, that next summer we had this farm, and there was a farmer up a few miles away, and I don't know how I found out or not, but he was selling out. And he had horses. He had a team of horses, and he had all kinds of horse equipment. And so I went in, I bought it, some of it, and I was able to work the ground up around the house there, or around the property, and not around the house, but because it was anyway. And Dad planted 5 acres of potatoes out there, seed potatoes. And they were coming good. And then one thing about Oregon, sometimes it starts raining in October, September and October, and that's not good for potatoes. And we didn't do too good. We could have made real good, but we didn't. And Dad said, he said that this ain't working. I'm going to work. I'm going back to work. And so he went back to work. And he went to work at Reynolds Metals down there at Troutdale. And he stayed there for almost 20 years. He retired from there. But he went back to work. He didn't do any more crazy stuff like I kept wanting to do.
All right. I love you, Grandpa.
Yeah, I love you too.